After this, I've got to phone my son in England because he's doing his summer exams, and he's a bit worried about his Spanish.
So you're dad's at the core, basically.
Yeah, so no, I love looking after children.
Mick Jagger has 8 kids with 5 different women, and most people think they know the story. Famous dad, famous kids, glamorous life. But the real picture is so much messier than that. One child grew up not even being acknowledged by him. One chose to completely disappear from public life. One followed him into music and nearly got crushed by the comparison. And then there is the youngest, a boy that almost nobody knows anything about, and that is not an accident. On top of all that, in early 2026, a crisis hit the family that pulled all of them together in a way nothing had before. Here is what is actually going on with the Jagger family. The child. He almost never claimed. Let's start with the one that most people gloss over, because this is where the real story begins. Karis was born in 1970 to Marcia Hunt. At the time, Jagger was already one of the most famous rock stars in the world. But when Karis arrived, he did not step up. He did not publicly claim her. Financial support only came after Marcia took legal action. Think about that for a second. The man singing to millions of fans every night had to be taken to court before he would support his own daughter. Karis grew up without the Jagger name opening doors for her. Her early childhood was shaped by distance and absence. She knew who her father was. The whole world knew. But knowing and having are two very different things. By the time their relationship improved, Karis was already a teenager. The damage had been done quietly and over a long period of time. What makes her story interesting is what she did with it. She did not chase fame. She went in the completely opposite direction. She attended Yale. She built a career behind the camera as a film producer. She got married and raised her own family. Now in her mid-50s, she has built a life worth around $10 million entirely through her own work. She avoided the spotlight that her father practically invented. You can draw a straight line from that abandoned early childhood to the woman she became. She saw what public life did to people. She saw what it did to her own story before she was even old enough to have a say in it. And she chose differently. Now compare that to Jade, born just 1 year later in 1971. Jade's mother was Bianca Jagger, who was herself one of the most photographed women of the whole decade. Jade did not grow up in the shadows. She grew up right in the middle of the flash. Her parents were everywhere during the 1970s. Fashion, parties, magazine covers, Studio 54. That world was her normal. When her parents divorced in 1978, Jade bounced between households and countries. That kind of upbringing sounds exciting from the outside, but it comes with its own kind of damage. There is no stability. There is no normal. There is just constant movement and the feeling that nothing is permanent. Jade leaned into the world she knew. She moved through modeling, nightlife, and high society. Eventually, she built a real career as a jewelry designer and served as creative director of a major brand. She has 3 kids of her own and is already a grandmother. And over time, she became one of the people who actually tries to keep this scattered family connected. She has described it herself as a network, not a family in the traditional sense. That one word tells you a lot. A network means people who are connected but not necessarily close. People who share something but live very separate lives. 2 kids, same father. Completely different starting points. Completely different paths. And both of them shaped by a man who was always more present in the world than he was at home. The one who tried to follow him into music. Now here is something worth thinking about. What is it actually like to grow up as the son of Mick Jagger and then decide you want to be a musician? James was born in 1985 to Jerry Hall. By the time he was old enough to play his first guitar chord, his father had already been on more magazine covers than most people see in a lifetime. The Rolling Stones were not just a band. They were a cultural institution. And James was carrying that name into venues where people expected something specific from a Jagger on stage. He formed a punk band called Turbogeist. The music was raw, fast, and aggressive. It had real energy. But no matter what he played or how good he was, every single review mentioned his father. Every article started with who his dad was. That kind of comparison does not just follow you. It sits on your chest every time you walk on stage. Think about how that feels. You are trying to build something that is yours. You are trying to find your own voice. And every single time, someone holds it up next to one of the greatest rock performers who ever lived. It is not inspiration at that point. It is pressure. James eventually shifted direction. He moved into acting. His most notable role came in Vinyl, a television series that was actually produced by his own father alongside Martin Scorsese. So even when he stepped away from music, he stepped into something that still had his father's fingerprints on it. He later married and stepped back from public life in a more deliberate way. He is now in his late 30s with a net worth of around $3 million. That number sounds impressive on its own, but compared to what his siblings have built, it reflects a career that is still finding its shape. Now flip to Elizabeth, born in 1984, just 1 year before James. She was born directly into the Jagger brand at its absolute peak. No adjustment period, no gradual introduction. She went straight into modeling and became one of the most recognized faces in fashion. She also got involved in activism, particularly around women's issues, adding real substance to a career that could have stayed purely surface level. Elizabeth has built up an estimated net worth of around $15 million. Her path looked smoother from the outside, but there is a specific kind of pressure that comes with being seen as representing something before you even know what you stand for yourself. And then there is Georgia May, born in 1992. She arguably did the best job of any of the siblings at turning the Jagger name into something that was actually hers. She modeled globally, partnered with major fashion houses, and co-founded a real business. Her estimated net worth sits around $20 million, which puts her ahead of all her siblings financially. But Georgia also became part of the conversation around nepotism. She built real things. But people still asked whether she would have had the same opportunities with a different last name. That question never fully goes away for any of them. It is the thing they all carry, regardless of how hard they work. The two who chose to disappear entirely. Not every one of Jagger's kids tried to make something out of the name. Some of them just walked away from it. Gabriel was born in 1997 to Jerry Hall. By the time he was growing up, he had watched multiple older siblings navigate the spotlight in different ways. He watched some thrive. He watched some struggle. And when it was his turn, he chose a path that had almost nothing to do with any of it. He trained as a journalist. He launched his own media platform. He got married quietly. He built a life that exists almost entirely outside the celebrity world that his name could have opened every door into. He is 28 years old now, with a modest estimated net worth of around $1 million. That number is small compared to his siblings, but the point is, he built it himself, on his own terms, doing work he actually chose. Gabriel represents something rare in a family like this: intentional distance, a conscious decision to not be defined by who your father is. And that is genuinely hard to do when the world keeps trying to define you that way. Then there is Lucas, born in 1999. His story started before he had any say in it. He was born from Jagger's relationship with Luciana Gimenez, a Brazilian model and television personality. His arrival became public because of what it ended. Jagger's long relationship with Jerry Hall was already falling apart, and the news of Lucas arriving with another woman made everything official and very public. Lucas grew up mostly in Brazil. Now, in his mid-20s, he moves through fashion events and social circles. He has visibility and access, but he does not have a clearly defined thing that is his. no career that he has fully committed to in public. His estimated net worth is under $1 million based on available information. His story is still being written, and the starting circumstances were messier than most of his siblings had to deal with. Being born into the middle of a public relationship collapse is a specific kind of beginning. What connects Gabriel and Lucas, even though their lives look completely different, is that neither of them has fully stepped into the Jagger legacy in the way their siblings have. Gabriel walked away from it deliberately. Lucas has not yet fully walked toward anything specific. Neither path is wrong. But both of them reflect something real about what it means to grow up carrying a name that everyone recognizes and feeling like you have to either run toward it or run away from it. There is very little middle ground when your last name is Jagger. And then there is the youngest one, the one who is being raised completely differently from all of them, the one who almost nobody knows anything about. And that is the most deliberate choice in this whole family. The boy being kept away from all of it. Devo was born in December 2016. His mother is Melanie Hammerich, a former ballet dancer with the American Ballet Theater. He is Mick Jagger's youngest child, and he is 9 years old in 2026. Most people barely know he exists. That is entirely on purpose. When Devo was born, Jagger was 73 years old. He had already been through everything. The chaos of the early years, the relationships falling apart in public, the children growing up under the flash of cameras they never asked for. By the time Devo arrived, something had shifted. Devo does not go to a regular school. He is educated by private tutors. The family moves between London, Paris, and other locations. There is no fixed address that the media can track. There are almost no public photos of him. The ones that exist were shared deliberately and carefully by his mother. There are no interviews, no appearances, no attempt to introduce him into public life at all. Compare that to Jagger's older kids. Jade grew up being photographed alongside her mother at the most visible events of the 1970s. Elizabeth was modeling as a teenager. James was on stage performing under his father's shadow before he was an adult. These children grew up in full view of the world because that was just what life looked like in those years. Devo is growing up in the opposite of that. People close to the family have said this is completely intentional. The goal is to give him something none of the older kids had. A real childhood. A chance to figure out who he is before the world decides for him. Melanie has spoken about this quietly. She and Jagger are engaged but have not married. She has said they are happy with their life as it is. She is focused on writing and raising their son in as normal a way as possible given the circumstances. There are signs that Devo has natural musical instincts. People who know the family have said he responds to music in an expressive way. But nobody is pushing him toward the stage. Nobody is building a brand around him. He is just a kid growing up. What is striking is that Jagger himself seems to understand something now that he did not understand decades ago. He has watched what early exposure did to his older children. He has watched the ones who struggled with the weight of comparison, the ones who built careers that could never quite escape his shadow, and the ones who had to run from his name just to feel like themselves. That experience appears to have changed him in a practical way, not just philosophically, in the actual day-to-day choices being made about how Devo is raised and what access the outside world gets to him. This is the most surprising thing Mick Jagger has done in a long time. Not the tours, not the records. The fact that the man who spent 60 years being one of the most visible people on the planet is now deliberately keeping his youngest child invisible. Whether that childhood stays protected is a different question. He has Jagger's last name. That alone is going to create pressure eventually. But right now, at 9 years old, he is just living his life without the world watching. And for this family, that is genuinely unusual. It was also this part of the family that got caught up in something nobody expected in early 2026. The crisis that pulled the whole family together. In January 2026, something happened that brought the entire scattered Jagger family into focus at once. Alexander Key went missing. He is the partner of Cece Jackson, who is Jade Jagger's daughter and Mick Jagger's granddaughter. Alexander is 37 years old and runs a restaurant called The Rocket Store in Boscastle, Cornwall. He and Cece have 2 young daughters together. By all local accounts, their life was stable and normal. On January 23, 2026, he was last seen on CCTV footage at a local pub called the Cobweb Inn. He was sitting alone around mid-afternoon. He left about an hour later. The next confirmed sighting placed him near Boscastle Harbor, walking toward the river. After that, nothing. Devon and Cornwall police officially opened a missing persons investigation. Search teams went out across the coastal paths, woodland areas, and nearby land. The geography around Boscastle is rough. Steep cliffs, narrow paths, unpredictable winter conditions. Police asked the public to check outbuildings, review dashcam footage, and report any sightings. This became personal for the Jagger family very quickly. Jade posted publicly on social media, sharing Alexander's photo and urging anyone with information to contact police. Georgia May reshared it. Other family members spread the appeal further. The family that normally operates as a dispersed network across multiple countries suddenly had one urgent, shared focus. Think about what that moment revealed. This family spans 8 children across 5 different mothers, multiple generations, multiple countries. They do not sit down to dinner together. They are not a close family in the traditional sense. But when something genuinely serious happened to one of their own, the response was immediate. That says something real about who these people are underneath all the distance and complexity. The network Jade described is real. It activated when it needed to. The case drew significant public attention because of the Jagger connection, but also because of the details. A young father with 2 small daughters, a tight-knit village community in Cornwall. No clear explanation for why or where he went. Those things together made the story land in a way that pure celebrity news never quite does. What also made it land was the image of Jade herself, a woman who grew up at the center of one of the most glamorous families in rock history, reduced to posting a photograph on social media and asking strangers to help find the father of her grandchildren. There is no amount of wealth, no number of magazine covers, no level of fame that prepares you for that moment. Fame does not give you better answers. It just gives you a larger audience, watching while you wait for them. And in this case, Cece was waiting not just as a private person in pain, but as a member of a family whose every public statement gets analyzed and redistributed. The media pressure on top of the personal uncertainty made an already unbearable situation harder to simply live through. As of the time this script was completed, the case remained unresolved. No confirmed location, no confirmed contact. The search was still ongoing. That uncertainty is the hardest part. For Cece, for their 2 daughters, for Jade, for the whole extended family, there is no answer yet. And living with that, in public, while the media covers every update, is a specific kind of pain. This is what the Jagger family actually looks like in 2026. Not the magazine covers, not the stadium concerts. A grandmother posting a missing persons appeal on social media. A family spread across the world suddenly trying to hold one of its members together. This is the part of the legacy no one writes songs about, but it is the most real part of all of it. Mick Jagger spent 60 years being one of the most visible people on the planet, but still could not protect his family from real pain and real loss. What does that tell us about what fame actually gives you and what it never could? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. For more interesting stories like this, be sure to click on the next video that pops up on your screen. You never know what you'll discover next.